Hi, welcome to Tea Time with Amie and Bev.
Good morning.
Hello.
Happy birthday week.
Happy birthday week to me. Yay. Yes, indeed. In fact, it'll be the day this comes out. So
Nice.
it'll actually be my birthday by the time everybody else hears it. So yeah.
Ooh, good intentions behind that one.
And it's full moon.
Oh,
Full
that's
moon.
nice.
Super full moon.
Nice.
And it's called the strawberry moon. I didn't even think about that. So I'm wearing red lipstick and it's kind of out of my comfort zone, but I'm rolling with it. And so it's a strawberry moon too. So how perfect was that? I didn't even think about that till just now.
Nice. You look totally beautiful. You are beaming.
I'm beaming.
You are.
I feel pretty good. Yeah. Just I did have a little moment of trying to get up this morning. So I didn't go work out this morning. I'm going to do it this afternoon because I was sleeping deep and hard and I was enjoying it and I wanted to stay there. So I did.
So you honored your body.
Because
we get to a place where we feel like we got to do these tasks because this is the day that I'm doing it. This is the time that I'm getting up. This is how it's going to go. And you just honored yourself. And that's a freaking huge statement right there.
That is huge.
Yeah, in the past, you wouldn't have probably done that. I know I wouldn't have.
No.
I know I wouldn't have. I'd have been like, I'm coming.
Yeah. Would have pushed getting up and getting going. And yeah, for sure.
Totally not listening to self or to body or to intuition or anything.
Yep.
And sometimes there's just more stuff going on energetically. We just went through, the summer solstice.
Yep, summer solstice.
Right around your birthday too. That's so crazy.
I know there's a lot of energy going on. We're in Mercury retrograde, summer solstice, super full moon on my birthday, and that energy is always 3 days before and 3 days after. So yeah, it's a very energetic, packed week. And also, in case some of you don't know, if you're not Cancer, you probably don't know this. Like, we're ruled by the moon. And we're very emotional beings. We are the emotional being on the planet, right? So when there's a full moon, back in the day when I was in my unhappy place, I would get, when the full moon came, I didn't really recognize this until I started learning about the full moon in my 30s. But in my darker days, when the full moon came, I would get very emotional and even more depressed. I mean, it was like amplified. And it wasn't until after I was doing some emotional healing that I recognized that when a full moon comes, without even looking at the calendar or knowing it's coming, I know that 3 days, like the 3 days before, I know because I'm usually wide awake most of the night. I will just lay in bed. You know, sometimes you like try to force the sleep. If I lay here long enough, I'm going to fall asleep. But it would be like having an energy drink before bed, 2 hours before bed. Like you're just spinning. And so, yeah, but that wasn't, and so I feel energized and feel good. Typically that when that full moon's coming, and it's a complete opposite of where I used to be.
Which is kind of crazy when you think about it, because to me, well, we've talked about like the full moon, that's an opportunity for ceremony, for releasing. But I think when you're saying all these things, I'm almost feeling like it's a natural. If you got emotional and you got really upset and all these things were coming forward, it's like these things come forward for us to release. So it's like you were going through a natural cleansing if you had taken the opportunity to feel through it or acknowledge what was going on. So it's actually kind of an awesome space to be in.
It was, but I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know exactly. that was what was happening. I just knew I got even more depressed than I was.
Yeah.
It was like just an emotional wreck.
You bring things to the forefront, but we don't know until you start asking questions or until you start seeking.
Right. So until till my internal questions start getting answered and information coming to me, then I learned about the full moon and being an emotional being as a astrology sign Cancer, and how we're ruled by the moon and the water. I mean, the moon affects the ocean,
Yes.
right? And so and to think, we're primarily water, and
Yes.
how that moon is affecting us. It's like, wow, it's just whew,
That's a
emotions on
lot.
steroids, right? It's like
Yes.
very heightened emotion, but now it's more like a heightened energy. Because if I'm in my joy, which I am more often than not now, um, I'm in that joy. So now that energetic vibration is amplified instead of the negative vibrational emotions amplified, taking me deeper. I'm going higher. Yeah. So
Because you have less stuff holding you down for sure, which is funny because like this whole what it just goes right into it, plays hand in hand with everything. So my whole thing that's been hitting me lately is let it go. Just let it go. Because you think, I was just mentioning last night, like what if we could just wake up the next morning and no longer have any of the training that we've received, you know, the beliefs. What if we just didn't have any of that stuff? It's like, to me, I think that there would be no vision problems. There'd be no aging issues that people might conceive as aging issues. There would be none of this stuff because we've got all this information. Oh, this is going to happen. We hear that when you're a kid. Even if you didn't put attention to it, you still heard it. And somewhere inside of you, if you're a computer, you receive that information. That information's in there. So it's like, okay, so the mind says, well, by the time you're 50 years old, you're going to have this, this, and this going on. You know what I mean? So it's just all these things that are set into our information. So for me, it's like letting it go, and then just really recognizing a lot of the stuff. And when I made that statement, it's like there's been different things that have kind of popped forward. Things for me, if I was moving fast, I wouldn't be able to catch, but I'm going slower. So I start recognizing some more of my behaviors that I have practiced in the past, that I'm no longer in that space anymore. And it's like, wow. And then even recognizing why it's so hard for someone else to tell you, well, you're experiencing that because this is what you're doing in your life, or this is how you did it, you were in the past. And it's so different that you really have to be in tune with yourself so you can acknowledge, why is this experience showing up for me? Why is this happening to me? What we would call happening to me right now, but it's not happening to us. I'm recognizing why it's in my experience. Why is it there? But it's only because we've been asking questions, which is kind of what we've been talking about like the last few weeks.
yeah, I I love how the conversations go, because it seems almost like the topic of the week, because yesterday was almost the same conversation with a coaching client, and she said the same thing. Well, I just need to let it go. Okay, so I am going to ask you what I asked her. What does that mean? When you tell somebody let it go, and they're just like, I don't know what that means. I don't know how to do that. I don't get what you're saying. Right? So what does it mean to you to let it go?
Letting go of everything. I'm letting go of all the pre-programmed stuff, like being so open to receiving new information. I'm letting go of how I think things are supposed to be. I'm letting go of the past that I thought maybe I did do something wrong. No, I did great. You know, it's such a full spectrum, because that's I mean, you can cover pretty much everything, but for me, it's a lot of pre-programmed information, pre-programmed beliefs, because if I stay in a space where I'm thinking that things have to be a certain way, or if I recognize behavior and I start putting a label on that behavior, an attachment, now I'm like kind of locking myself in with somebody else's behaviors or someone else's stuff. So for me, I'm like, I'm witnessing things and just letting them go. I'm not holding on to them like I would have in the past.
And so I just want to reiterate on that, is that way, because Bev's talking about recognizing your own behavior.
Oh yeah.
And we want to blame the people who were significant in our life when we were younger. We want to blame them for the way we are. I mean, that's just common. That's what we know. You did this to me, right? So um so it's recognizing okay, well, that was when I was a kid. All that happened when I was a kid, and I didn't have any control over it. I didn't know any better from a human standpoint. I just want to be clear, because there's a spiritual standpoint, but from our human side, we didn't know any better. We were being controlled, quote unquote, by the adults and people around us, because we were innocent little beings just bumping around and soaking in everything that we were taking in that was happening around us. And then we take that, we form that, and hold it in our little brain files, and then that's how we operate when we get older. So it's recognizing. So one thing that's common, I used to do it, and it now I'm just like, it kind of bothers me when people say it, like, and they're proud of it. I have a resting bitch face. I used to have that for sure. I just wanted to put on this front, this mask that I was a tough bitch and don't mess with me, when inside I was an introvert and shy and timid, and I was scared of everybody, but I had to put on this mask. So that resting bitch face, RBF, was like a permanent thing, right?
With a
And
shield.
it was my shield, right? Because of what happened to me when I was younger.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, that's not something I want to portray. I mean, that didn't even feel good then, and I knew it. And it doesn't feel good now, even if I tried to do it. Like, I can't even do it now. If I see people with that going on, I'm smiling. I'm like, oh, come on, let's turn that around, right? So just acknowledging, okay, well, I have this RBF and it doesn't feel good. Well, what brought this on? Why do I feel like I need to wear this mask? Why do I feel like I need to be in this state all the time around people? Right? So it's going inward and asking yourself and being inquisitive about yourself as to what brought on this behavior. Mine was this, that I was taken advantage of by men when I was little, and getting hurt all the time by means of expecting love from them, but only getting pain. And so that was my guard. That was my
Warrior.
wall, right?
Yeah.
As long as
Yeah.
I'm wearing the RBF, you're not going to mess with me, because there will be consequences, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so I had to recognize that, okay, well, I'm doing this because this happened, and it doesn't feel good. So how am I going to turn it around and be different in a way that does feel good? So that goes along with, your way of thinking, mindset. We always talk, it starts with your mindset. You have to shift your mindset. Then it is reflected through how you're speaking, how your emotions show up, through your actions, your habits, behaviors, your patterns, right? All that starts to shift if you get interested in you, right? People do research on all kinds of things. You can do a research on a pencil for a report or whatever it might be. Do some research on yourself. Be interested in yourself, because if what you're doing doesn't feel good, you have to know what's triggering that. Why am I not feeling good? And why am I acting the way I'm acting that doesn't feel good? And how am I going to turn that around? And there's things you got to look at to say, okay, I see how this person was significant in my life, and I picked up their behavior or their speech patterns, the language that they use, and that doesn't feel good anymore. It never did feel good, but I'm recognizing how much it doesn't feel good. I'm like very aware of it. So now it's a practice. Well, what kind of words would you like to use? What kind of verbiage, language do you want to use that does feel good? And you may have to find somebody that is already portraying that type of behavior to model, right? Find somebody to model, because the way they speak and the way they present themselves, the way they look, like, you can take things from other people. It could be many people that you just conform to your own self to be embody or bring on these traits that are going to help you feel better. And it's going to, you're borrowing these traits from other people, but you're going to morph it into something for yourself, right? You're going to take and blend these things and then find out what feels good to you and then move forward, and you're going to evolve and shift and change, and it's okay, but at least start. But you have to be inquisitive about it. You got to know, how is this whole thing operating and why am I showing up the way I am with this RBF?
Yeah.
I got to understand that.
Well, to me, it's part, when you were talking about this stuff, it almost reminds me, it's just our bodies are another tool, right? It's a tool. My foot's freaking killing me. I look in my book and it tells me what's going on. What am I not moving forward from? RBF, when you think you're in a great space and a great mood, take a look at it and see what your face looks like in the mirror. Do you know what I mean? Because to me, that's a tool to let you, it's an indicator. It's just another indicator to let you know kind of where you're at. Because there's a difference. I probably still have RBF sometimes. Maybe not as much as I used to in the past, because it was like full time. It was like, it wasn't 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
It was like all the time. Well, I am happy right now.
Right.
But look in the mirror, because you're not. And it's like you're not doing anything wrong. It's just another tool to let you know that where you at right now. And it's like, and then if you see yourself in the mirror and you're like, what's wrong with you? Because you want to talk to yourself. I would talk to myself now, because this is what I'm learning, to talk to myself as my best friend. So if I'm my best friend and I see myself in the mirror and I've got RBF, it's like, what's wrong? What's wrong with you? Because the answers are always going to come. They always are. How can I get better than this? People are going to show up in your experience, like you were saying, but they're going to model to you how it can get better than that. And it's not just what they're doing, it's their energy. That's what people start noticing. It's more. So all these are just more indicators to kind of pay back, give attention to self. Honestly, it is. And it's like, my foot's been bothering me. I heard it started hurting yesterday, and it's like, I haven't really gotten to the basis of all of it. I mean, I kind of have an idea, but now it's like it's getting my attention more. It's no longer just in the foot, it's coming up the leg and into the hip and stuff like that. So it's like, but this is what happens, because I haven't asked the questions. I looked at the book, but I didn't ask myself questions. And, I didn't ask, why is this showing up right now? What do you want me to know? Or, which is good, because we can have this experience now. So each person that's having a problem, asking yourself, why is this showing up for me? What are you trying to tell me? And before when I used to do that, I'd go into meditation. I'd be like, so what's going on? And I'd sit there and I would look around, still not hearing nothing, still waiting for something. And now it's just like, just be at ease. Don't have an expectation. It's so weird. It's so weird for me to say not to have an expectation, because I was in that expectation. But it's like something, as you're just going through this journey, something just clicks, and it's no longer an expectation. So now it's like, I know it's gonna tell me. It's trying to get my attention. And the more that I ignore it, the more that I continue to walk around on it and pretend like nothing is going on. And I still look at my book, but I'm not asking the questions. I'm not doing any follow through for my best friends right here, because my best friend's hurting. I haven't been paying attention to my best friends. My mind must have been out on something else or whatever, but it's just funny how it's gotten louder and louder and louder. It's no longer just the foot. It's no longer when I'm just walking around. Now when I'm sitting, it's in my ankle. It's in my, I'm laughing about it because this is hilarious to me, because I get to witness it from this standpoint currently. But it's like my legs saying, hey, dumbass. But I'm not, because there's nothing wrong with me. That's right. Hey, we're right here. So something not paying attention to. So, because I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. We're learning. But that's why I say, how do we wake up and how do we let go of it all? So just asking the question, how do we let go of it? What does that look like? How does that feel? And it all started with that crazy question I think I said last week. It's like, if you just came here right now with a clean slate, what would you do? It's like, how the hell would I know? I don't have a clean slate right now. Wipe it all off.
Remember the Etch-a-Sketch?
That's right.
Just shake the shit out of that thing.
I'm gonna go into meditation later. You just look out, Bev. Shit out of this thing right here.
We will be in meditation now from now on, going clean slate.
something. Because why? Because there's more. There's got to be something. I mean, everything happens to help us to ask for more, whether we physically say it, whether we mentally say it, whether just the experience alone asks for more. It's going to happen.
And the more, so, this just goes to asking questions about yourself, because that's where the change starts.
Yeah.
You have no control over anything outside of you to change anything to make you happy. So the change has to shift within inside. And so asking questions about yourself. And then once you ask those questions and information starts to come, let me be clear, you're not always going to like the answer. You are not going to like the answer. And sometimes you might get angry and sometimes you might laugh. At the beginning, I was mad. Like I was pissed when things came to me and I was like, oh, fury, right? Yes. Now I'm in a space where I show up in a certain way. Maybe something happens and I get triggered and, I got to have a moment of a temper tantrum or whatever it might be. And then I can laugh about it and go, wow, I'm still showing up like this. Thing is, temper tantrum doesn't last days and weeks. It lasts a moment. Just lasted a moment. And I went, okay, yeah, I'm still showing up with this, with showing up like this, and kind of laugh about it, because that sends, when you're laughing about something, it sends a different message to your body to let you know you're okay. You get out of that fight or flight. And then it's inquiry. What triggered me? Why did it trigger me? Why did I respond that way? Right? It's just really, and this is how we just keep getting better and better and better with ourselves, that behavior didn't feel good. So how am I going to switch it? Well, I have to acknowledge what I did and acknowledge why I'm showing up that way, acknowledge what triggered me, acknowledge, even go back as far as I can. This is what works for me. Go back as far as I can to see how that was a similar representation of something that happened when I was little. So, because it's still the little girl inside of me is running the show. And I want that little girl to have a great experience. So it's up to me as the adult to figure out and find a solution to her behavior, her thought pattern, her programming, so I can help reprogram that. Then we show up even better, right? So it's not, don't sit there and look in your mirror and say, oh my God, what's wrong with me? I'm a horrible person. I'm showing up like this. And gosh, I really am a bitch, right? And just really get down on yourself. No, you already know. You got the RBF. We already know that. We can just be good with that. Okay, now let's talk about what's bringing it on. This is like doing a research paper. You're going to do a research paper on Einstein or King Tut or Oprah, right? You want to be inquisitive about them. You want to ask questions. You want to get to know them. You want to know what makes them as magnificent as they are, right? What makes them get excited? What makes them sad, right? Do the same thing for yourself. Because then once you can acknowledge all that, then you can start letting those pieces go that are no longer serving you.
That's
and
awesome.
Just they will pop up here and there. Okay, this is a lifelong journey. They will pop up here and there, but they're not going to be as intensified. It's going to be easier to look at it. It's going to be easier to laugh at it, laugh at yourself, right? And so, yeah, it's all good. There's nothing wrong with any of us. We know that. We've had this conversation. There's nothing wrong with any of us. We're just in a space that we got to ask questions about ourselves.
We're becoming our own gurus.
Yeah. And you know what? It's not for me to go study Bev so I can learn how to make her change so I can feel better, because that ain't gonna work. I'm just saying, just let you know, that doesn't work. Okay. Just let that go. You're not gonna change your mom or your dad or your siblings or your coworkers or anybody else. That's all internal work.
Yeah. You'll make yourself crazy trying
Oh man.
because they're on their own journey. You know, as you're saying this stuff too, it's like we release in so many different ways, right? We do release emotions. It can be like the tantrum, it could be crying, but to me, laughter is the best release. So as you were saying, going through that process, it's like, okay, well, laughter is a release, and then you have an opportunity to look at things. An opportunity like this morning, I hear, well, I'm making a list of things I'm going to get from town. You know, I'm going to go into town and I'm going to make, or, well, he didn't, it wasn't said I'm going to town. He's like, making a list of a shopping list that needs to be picked up in town. And automatically I put myself like, oh, I have to go fucking to town and pick up all, you know, all this stuff. It was never directed at me, but it was, this is part of the programming. This is part of the stuff that I noticed within myself. And then then it took me on a trail like, what if I get the wrong things? You know, so it's like, I hadn't even left the freaking building. No one ever even said anything about
Nobody
going
even
to do
asked you to go.
It's not even for me to do, right? It wasn't for me to do, but it's like I went through this whole process. But we don't notice those things if you don't take the time to look at yourself. And it's important. It's so important. Just like I noticed yesterday, which I've heard it so many different ways, but when someone says something about you, or okay, so an example, if I said something about something and someone took it the wrong way, not the way I intended, that has nothing to do with me. That
Right.
has everything to do with the person that received the information.
Right.
It has, I don't have to, you know, we speak a certain way or we act a certain way because there's certain people that are going to come into our experience, whether it's directly or they're on the outside overhearing, that are going to experience each one of us in a different way. It's not that you have to be like anybody else. You got to be like you because someone else can hear you. If we were all the same, the person that's on the outside can't hear it. If you, that can't understand that one group of people, they're never going to get it because we all got to be different. So it's like recognizing it's all right. Because before I'd have been like, oh, I'm sorry. That's not how I meant it. And now it's like, wait a minute. That's not, it doesn't matter how you perceive things. I never, that was not my intention. So however you perceive those things, or this is your journey. This is where you're learning right now. It's helping you learn to ask more questions and vice versa. If I hear something and I take it the wrong way, just like this morning, I took it into a different context. It's like, now I got to go do this. And no, I don't got to go do this. I don't have to go do anything. And that's what I've been told over and over and over again. You don't have to do anything. You do things that you want to do. You want to clean your house. You want to wash your laundry. You want to brush your hair. You know, these are things that if you feel like you have to, it's time to take a look at your life, really. Because that's all, again, indicators, a tool of how you're feeling and how much attention you're not giving yourself.
And we also have choices. So, okay, so just on the things you just said, I don't have to clean my house. I don't have to comb my hair. I don't have to brush my teeth. You're right. You're absolutely right. You don't have to do any of that. You also have to be okay with the consequences that follow,
Yep.
right? So if you don't brush your teeth, you may have teeth problems, right? Which affects the rest of your body, your physical system. If you don't clean your house, you're susceptible to having bugs and mold and disgusting crap, right? You don't brush your hair, you may end up, you got long hair, you got a lot of hair. And if you don't brush your hair, especially where we live, where it's windy all the damn time, you're going to have a matted nest, and you may have to shave your head because you can't comb it out, right? So you recognizing there are things we don't have to do. There's a lot of things we don't have to do. And if we choose not to do them, then be okay with your consequences that follow. And don't get upset about it because you created it. Yeah. If you create a rest net in your hair, meaning it's just all tangled and nappy, it's like, well, don't get mad at anybody else. You chose not to brush it or wash it or take care of it. It's the same thing with your being. If you're going to choose not to shift or change or beautify or dress or, take an inventory of your emotions and your words and your thoughts and change your mindset, that's on you. Your parents are living their life, or they may not even be here. The teachers that you had in preschool, primary school, they may not even be here in physical form. They're or out living their life, right? So they're not going to change. They're not going to change their way of being, of how they were, right, 40 years ago for me, because now I have issues because of what they did. It's on me. And my way of being is on me, and the consequences that follows that is on me. It's my responsibility, not anybody else's.
Yeah.
And that affects your whole life.
Yeah. And it comes back to the let it go, letting it go. And it's like, these are things that really are necessary for being done, but find yourself in a better space to do it. Because I get to brush my hair because I have hair. I get to clean my house because I have a house. I get to mop. Thank God I have water. I appreciate that water. I appreciate the floors that I like walking around without shoes on and not having something stuck to the bottom of my foot. So I mean, it's finding yourself in a different space, but that's all about choice. Because I used to be the person that plowed through everything, but that was me keeping myself busy so that I didn't have to deal with this. I didn't have to deal with this hot mess, because I was a hot mess back then, but I'm not anymore. I love myself. Yeah. And I do find that I don't always love myself, or I'm picking myself apart. And one of my daughters will say, "Don't talk about my best friend that way." So it makes me laugh, because it's true. It's like, and then I hear it from Freeman as well. It's like, don't be talking about my girl that way. It's like, you just don't. Who are you? And it's not mean or anything like that, but it's a nice way for me to check myself, because wait a minute, how am I talking to myself right now? Because I still have my habits. Right. I still have my pre-programmed information. Even as far as behaviors goes, like, I can look back at so many different things and be like, holy smokes, like, I picked that up from such and such. Well, it's great that I know where it came from. Okay, I want to move past all that stuff. I don't want to feel like this anymore. So it's like, for me, it's like asking questions. What is a better way to react or to be in a situation? What is better? Because I don't know. I'll tell you what, I've been asking so many questions that I only say that out loud a million times because it blows my mind. It blows my mind, because if I wasn't where I was at right now, I wouldn't be able to ask these questions. Because I was a person before that never asked these questions. I never asked questions. I was to be seen and not heard. I would have been too embarrassed to ask the question in school, because then the attention would have gotten on me. I would never have said anything. Oh my God, they might all think I'm stupid. Oh, maybe I am stupid. All this stuff that you go through, but it's like, that's let it go too. There's like, I could write let it go, and there's a million things underneath it. Probably a billion, probably a zillion. I don't know. But it's like, there's always going to be something, but it's like, I'm not upset about it. I'm not angry with myself. I'm not disappointed in myself. I'm like, holy shit, I got more questions. I got more evolving.
Absolutely. I didn't ask questions either. I didn't want to be seen or heard. Didn't want to be thought of as the person who asked the stupid questions. And now, here's what they teach us in business. Okay, when you're learning to do a business and you're taking all these classes or coaching or whatever, they'll tell us, and they said this in school too, but we couldn't hear it in a way without putting judgment on it. There is no stupid question. And so in business, when we're talking to a coach, the question that's being presented could be that I have a perception of what the answer is, but somebody else is going to have a different idea that might be more beneficial. That's where the masterminds come from. So the other thing is, if you're asking a question, you're being guided, right? Intuitive guidance to ask the question, because somebody else one, if not 20 people are thinking the same thing. And it's a matter of who is going to ask the question to get the answer. Because there's many people focused on it, but nobody wants to ask because of our programming as kids, that if I ask a question, I'm going to get laughed at.
Yeah.
I've asked questions recently in the mastermind, like exactly what I just said. I had a perception of what the answer was. They had a better idea. I asked a question. I thought it was silly. I thought it was, I was thinking, gosh, these people are going to think like I'm a moron, and have the reciprocation of, thank you so much for asking that question. I resonate with what you're saying and asking, and I understand the position you're in, right? You get this type of empathy that you didn't even know was there, that because people are on a similar path or experiencing similar things, but they are not asking the question because of their programming in kindergarten, where they asked a question and the whole class laughed at them. And here we're all adults bumping around, figuring this shit out. And we're still not asking the questions. And then we're still in the same space we're in 10 years later. So ask the questions. Doesn't matter if it's in a mastermind group, if it's in a support community, if it's in the comment box to this video, ask the questions. Because somebody else is asking those questions too. You're just being the voice. Be the voice for others.
Yeah. You were talking when we first started talking about this, and what popped into my head is, I didn't realize it because this never crossed my mind. I was wasting people's time.
Oh, yes.
And I did that. That's like, holy crap. Like, and even still, like, you don't want to ask questions because you don't want to waste someone's time.
Because I don't deserve their time and energy. I don't deserve the attention. Because I didn't deserve it when I was little, because I got in trouble all the time.
Man.
I'm right there with you. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. That's just right. My mind just wants to process all that because it's just such a crazy thing. Like, that could even go all the way back. I mean, my mom was 17 when she had me. I don't know what frame of mind she was in at that time. I mean, she was kind of more of a hippie-ish kind of woman. So it's like I don't know. I wonder how that, and then there was a time that she was working 3 jobs. So it's like raising myself and my sister. So she probably didn't have time, but it's amazing how us as children can receive this information or receive our worth because we've been trained outside of ourselves, that our worth comes from outside of ourselves, that our happiness, our joy, everything comes from outside of ourselves. And it's like, here we are, and I'm 51 now. It's like, it's everything is within inside of self. Everything. If someone says something and I perceive it, however I perceive it, that's on me. That has everything to do. And it's not that anybody's doing anything wrong. And it's not that you're doing anything wrong or I'm doing anything wrong. It's just another freaking tool. It's just another indicator of letting us know how we're feeling right this moment. We take things, like I was thinking this, and we take things so personal. So personal. Wasting people's time. Wow.
Or I'm a waste of time.
Yeah, no, but that's how I felt. Like, I felt like I was wasting people's time.
Because I'm going to ask a silly question.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, that's definitely there. That was definitely there. But the other part was on there because it's not, and that's the thing where it's important for us to honor our energy, to be more in tune with ourselves, because that's what we're putting out. However we're feeling, whether it's pushing against something. If you're pushing against something, then whoever comes into your environment feels like someone's pushing against them. So you automatically have someone, a warrior. You automatically have someone on guard. So, and if you feel like you don't, keep looking at your time, or I don't have time, or, oh, they don't have time for me, then it's like that whole energy comes out. It's not a matter of, it has nothing to do with time. It has to do with like, oh, like the other person might feel it as if like, well, I probably should get going because it just doesn't feel comfortable here. It doesn't feel right. And it's like, there's so much more going on because it's more of an energy. But it's like when you have a teacher and a teacher's like in a hurry to go do something and you're trying to ask a question, then you feel like you don't, like, you can't ask the question because your time's not worth it. They don't have time for you. You shouldn't, why are you even asking a question? Why are you bothering me with this?
Right. And the, so I'll use this as an example. Imagine that your mom already has 2 or 3 children, and then you're born. She already had her hands full, right?
Yeah.
And now here's you as a little baby in the middle of the living room, playing, doing whatever, and the oldest sister or brother's watching over you, and mom keeps walking in and out of the room. And as a baby's perception, mom's ignoring me. Mom's ignoring me. Mom's ignoring me. Mom doesn't have time for me. Mom doesn't have time for me. I'm not worthy of mom's time. I'm not worthy and deserving of mom's time. Right? And so we start, that's our programming. So then as an adult, we will not have lengthy, like Bev and I wouldn't have a lengthy conversation because I would feel like I'm taking her time, and she probably doesn't have time for me. And so I need to keep this real short and just get on with my life so she can get on with her life, because I imagine she's just so busy. When in fact, Bev's like, we could talk all day if you wanted to. But in me, people don't have time for me because mom didn't have time for me, because she already had her hands full. But I didn't, as a baby, we don't process, oh, okay, well, mom already has, right? A 2-year-old doesn't sit there and go, oh, I already have 3 siblings. Mom's real busy. She's got a lot of cleaning to do. She's got the laundry. She's got to get dinner ready, right? She's working a full No, a 2-year-old doesn't do that. A 2-year-old sees mom just walking by and ignoring them. No nurturing, no cuddling, no I love yous, right? That's what the 2-year-old or the 3-month-old takes in. And then that little person inside gets older and says, people don't have time for me. I can't bother people. I can't waste their time.
Yeah, I'm not worthy. I don't deserve. So you go that whole thing. And then it's like, it's an emotion that you feel, but you don't even know that's why you're reacting the way that you're reacting, until we slow down and pay attention to ourselves, until you get to know yourself.
When it also, then that also flips back to, I don't have time for myself. So I don't have time for me to ask the questions.
Yeah.
I don't have time for me to get the support. So I'm going to stay busy so that I don't have to spend time with me.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm not worthy of that time. I'm not worthy of that nurturing time. That's where we start asking the questions about our own behaviors so that we can start turning them around or shifting them or changing them so that they're in a way that feels good. Because you know what? Yeah, mom had you, but it's not her job to love you. This is something that I had to come to terms with. My biological father did the deed for me to be born, but it's not his job to love me. So the value that I found in his participation of me being created was he was a master teacher in teaching me to love myself. Now, I didn't do that. I didn't even start doing that until my mid-30s. But looking back, I'm like, wow, okay, I get it. I get it. When I have the love for myself, when I turn my attention and focus inward and connect to that love for myself, that's my job. It was his job to love him. It was my mom's job to love herself. They didn't know how to do that because they're all jacked up too, just like the rest of us. But I took the time to ask the questions about myself to, why am I expecting Bev to love me? Why am I expecting my grandparents to love me? Why am I expecting so-and-so, the boyfriend, to love me? Why? And it came down to, it's not their job. It is not their responsibility. Responsibility of my parents, from my perspective, was to keep me safe.
That's it.
But that didn't work out so well either, just saying, because there was abuse in my family. So, so that was an interesting dynamic, but their job is to keep me safe. So spirit in us is love, and it was my job to connect to that, to my spirit, my job to bring my human side and my spirit side into alignment so that I could love myself. And once I was able to do that, even just get a little closer, right? Because that shift, just a little shift, is going to be amazing, because then you get that glimpse of that felt good. That feels good. Wow, that feels good when I can say I love myself, and it just comes closer and closer into alignment. Then I could look at my biological father in my mind, because I've never met him, but in my mind, and say, thank you for being my master teacher and teaching me to love myself. Because the alternative to that is I could still be hanging on to that story and transition with that story still in me. That's not going to feel good. And that definitely isn't the life I wanted to have. And that's really what put me on this journey of what is life about? Why am I experiencing all this pain all the time? Because this surely isn't what I want to, how I want to live my life. This sucks.
Because life made you ask questions.
Yes. Get inquisitive. Be curious. It's like the
true.
curious little mind, right? The curious little kid that picks up everything, tastes everything, touches everything. Just be curious about yourself. You are so interesting. I find myself interesting all the time, because I say and do things and I'm like, why did you do that? Why? I'm really curious to know why I just did that, or why I just said that, or why I just acted out that way. That's curiosity. That isn't saying I'm wrong or I'm dumb or I'm stupid, or you know, you fell back 5 notches from where you were. No, I'm just like, okay, I'm curious as to why I showed up this way. I recognize it, I acknowledge it, I get curious, I ask the questions, I make the shift. But you got to be willing to do that.
Yeah, and then you make the baby steps, because that's all it is. It's just baby steps. You're learning a whole way of using your whole life, using your body. You know, when you were talking, I'm thinking about, it's interesting because my life consisted of getting up and going to work and trying to do the best, be the best employee, do the best, the best stuff, and get there and be there as long as the doctor needed me, or whatever job I was working at. And I'm thinking, holy shit, how confusing that we thought we came here to work. We didn't come here to work. We came here to live life. It wasn't being the best at transporting inmates or being the best at being intuitive and hearing what was going to happen before it ever happened. I mean, it wasn't any of those things. There's so much bigger than all that. Because if we're not even living life, that means so you wanted to just come here and be the best possible person at your job. Man, there's so much more to life than that. And all of it does boils down to loving yourself. I feel like that is like the biggest gift you can give the world. You do more doing that than you do anything.
And if you're in a job, I lived this for a while. If you're many years, multiple jobs. If you're in a job where your boss is narcissistic or abusive, I would get really inquisitive about yourself. And, why do I deserve this? I knew I deserved it. It was because of my upbringing, because of the adult men in my life that were supposed to be caring, in my mind was supposed to care for me and love me, didn't. I got abused instead. So that showed up in my in the jobs that I had. And so I had to get really curious about myself and ask myself, why am I getting up every day to go work for somebody who I'm building their dreams and they get to treat me this way? I am playing a part in building their dream. And they think that the more they pay me, the more work they can give me, even though I'm already doing the job of at least two people, and speak to me in an abusive manner. Why do I think that's okay? That is being curious. And so curiosity is going to create a whole different life for you.
Yes. Because you're more neutral, right? You're more neutral, because otherwise what would have happened if you would have pushed against that? Which I did for many, many years, but what would have happened if you pushed against that behavior? It just gets louder and louder. It gets more and more in your face. More and more people show up just like that person. So I like you saying become, really it's becoming more curious. You become white, like just like you said, white. Like to me, it was funny when you're like looking at yourself, like, why did you do that? What were you thinking? Why are you showing up this way? I mean, that's what my mind's processing. To me, that's funny, but it's a nice way of, it's an easier way of looking at something, and then it's like, then the advice or the information that you need is easier that comes to you too.
And again, I don't always like the answer.
No, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, especially in the beginning, man. Almost everything made me mad. It's like, God. And still, I don't always like the answer, but I receive it. Before I resisted it. I received it and then I pushed it away. I'm like, no way, there's no way. That's not my fault. That's not my fault.
Yeah.
I didn't do it. They did it, right? So, but now, majority of the time I just laugh about it. I receive the answer and I laugh about it, but sometimes I just, you get that eye rolling, really attitude, right? And then I'll move past that. And it's just moments. Again, it's not days, weeks, months, or years. It's like moments, because I want to move that energy as quick as I can. Because that's time. That is time that I don't get back. And to me, I spent a lot of time of my life in a space that I did not like, but I didn't know how to move through it. Now I have the tools to move through it. So I want to move it as quick as I can, because I don't want to stay in that space anymore any longer than I have to, because I have other things to do with my life besides sit in the shit for a long period of time.
It's true. Because you're wasting life. Like, go out and feel it. To me, more of the stuff that I receive like that, it's like, wow, that's how you're behaving right now. Why is that? Or now it's a different place. But before I would have said the same thing as you. It's like, what the fuck is your problem? To myself.
Oh yeah, I've said that for sure.
Or what's our book that that secret language of your body? It's like, I would look at that stuff. I'd be like, this isn't my shit. This isn't about me. Exactly. And now it's like, because I've even told clients this too. Now it's like, yeah, it's my shit. It's my shit. I said, but I just tell them that because it's like, it's a reference. Initially, we don't see how it possibly could be, but it's like the more we learn ourselves, and it's not that we're doing anything wrong. It's just what we've been carrying. Do you want to keep carrying the shit, or do you want to let it go? It's really it's a choice. It's that simple.
And if you don't take responsibility for it, you can't change it.
Exactly.
Because you're saying it's their responsibility and they have to change it. Until they change it, I can't be happy. You're giving them no total control and power. Oh, no, sister. That ain't the way it works. You take responsibility for your part and you change that. What they do is their business.
And you can't make someone else change. Honestly, you can have, even having this knowledge, because a lot of times you're like, come on, man, figure this out. But it's like, that's how I would have been for myself. Oh, I was standing on the sidelines looking at myself a while back. I would have been the same thing. Like, what the hell? But we can't even when I was learning all this information, I tried to push it on to everybody else. Like, oh my God, you're doing this stuff to yourself. And but no one wants to hear that shit. It's a personal journey. You have to freaking walk. You have to go through this stuff. So maybe hearing that might, I tell people, if you hear something and it kind of just pisses you off, hey, that's right now letting you know there's something going on in you. What does that mean? Why is that showing up? Why am I reacting this way? Everything just lets you know to go right back to self again. And it's like then you start seeing what's going on, what you're doing, and it's so easy. It just falls away from you. You're not doing it anymore because you're aware of it. But when you're not aware and someone's trying to tell you, oh, don't come at me telling me that shit. I will fuck you up. So just kidding. I am not going to hear that shit.
Rock
But
your
you just
world,
can't.
Betty.
That's right. And it's not because there was anything wrong with me. It was just because I wasn't capable at that time. I wasn't on that part of the journey just yet.
Right. And the people you talk to that are not ready to hear it, they are not ready to be on that part of the journey. It's like you were walking this line with all these people and you came to a Y in the road and you took the path that felt better and they took the path that was most comfortable.
Truth.
Right? And at
Yes.
some point, 1 or 20 of those people that took the path that was most comfortable they're going to be walking, and you're going to be walking your path, making these changes, but they're going to be walking and they're going to keep turning and looking at you like, wow, Bev really looks happy. Bev looks like she's got her life together. Bev looks like she's doing amazing. Oh my gosh, Bev's complexion's changed. Look at how she's just doing really great. And then 1 or 20 people are going to want to cross the pasture and go learn what you're doing. Until they cross that pasture, don't waste your time. They don't want to hear it. Trust me.
You planted seed. Exactly. Yes. You planted seeds, or you gave them something to question. Like, okay, well, just by seeing somebody else, well, how do they do that? How is their life going like that? What are they doing different than I'm doing? What could I be doing? Whatever question that comes into your mind. It's like everything, life makes you ask questions, and life may be your best friend, and it might be your partner, or it might be some stranger or a family member that was in your life that, you guys wandered off on a Y, and eventually maybe your paths came back together again because you became a match in energy again. And once you go forward, there's no going back. You just can't. You may want to go back because that's familiar and that might have been comfortable, but it's like the more that I've gotten away from all those behaviors, that's not my familiar that I want anymore, and it certainly wasn't comfortable. Because that comfortable means that you're ignoring yourself. That comfortable means that you're plowing through life and you're not enjoying life. And I really strongly believe we're supposed to be here to enjoy life. I can get wrapped in all the political stuff, the earth stuff. I can get wrapped in all that stuff. That's easy. Everybody can do that. But it's like, how do you love yourself in this space no matter what? How do you keep a positive faith because you love yourself, and that loving yourself gets you more aligned and that gets you more connected, so everything's working out. You know that everything's fine regardless of all the stuff that's going on around you, regardless of the news or what people keep telling you or whatever. Just because that is what is going on, which is really the past, doesn't mean that's what is now that is creating our future.
There you have it, my friends. Beverly Brand's wisdom.
It's universal. Thank you. I'm just the voice. Like I talk to my universal team all day. I'm like, okay, what do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
How can I best show up for this person? How can I best show up for my client? How can I best show up for myself? You're awesome.
You're doing a great job.
Well, thank you.
And thank you.
Have a great master teacher.
Thank you for bringing that wisdom forward. You're awesome.
Thank you.
Just a screenshot. Okay, that's all you get.
I'll back it up and freeze it.
All right, my friends, thank you so much for spending time with us. Tea Time with Amie and Bev. we just bring forth the information that we have that helps guide us and helps us navigate through our life. And we share that information with you. And so if you know anyone that would benefit from this information, then please pass it along. And of course, you can leave comments or questions in the comments box and we will get back to you, or you can email us at amieandbev@gmail.com, AMIEANDBEV@gmail.com.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Make a fantastic week, I guess, right?
Absolutely.
That's the best.
Make it a fantastic, not hoping you have one, not wishing you have one. Make it, because that's your responsibility and you have control over that.
That's right.
There you have it. Amen. All right. Thanks, friends.